Hey everyone, welcome. Get comfortable, and let's get into tonight's Reddit stories. Imagine coming home from your first trip away as new parents and finding your most treasured family heirlooms completely gone. And then the person who did it is just standing there, smiling, calling it a surprise. What would you do? Am I the asshole for banning a relative from our house right after they donated our furniture while we were away from home? I'm still shaking while I'm typing this. My wife, Paula, and I just got back from a trip. It was our first time away since our twin daughter was born. We gave my mother-in-law, Hakiko, a spare key so she could check on things if necessary. Paula is really sentimental. When her grandmother passed away, she left her two hand-carved mahogany pieces, a desk and a vanity. They were Paula's absolute favorite things. We walked in yesterday, and the room was empty. And there's Hakiko, all smiles, telling us she had a surprise for us. She said she got rid of that old dusty junk to give us a more modern look, LOL. She'd replaced them with some cheap flat-pack furniture. She literally gave away and donated Paula's inheritance without even asking. I told her to leave and give me the keys. I changed the locks today. Paula has been in tears. Now the rest of the family's calling me an abusive guy and controlling, saying I'm isolating Paula from her mother, Hakiko, over some old piece of junky wood. They're saying Hakiko's heart was in the right place and that I'm being an asshole for banning a grandmother from seeing her grandkid over furniture. My wife is on my side. She agrees with the ban, but the constant guilt from her family is making me feel like a monster. Am I the asshole? The top comments are very clear. People don't think this was just a bad surprise. They see it as theft. Multiple commenters say the first step should be to call the police and report the furniture as stolen, since these were inherited items that clearly belonged to Paula and the OP. The mother-in-law had no right to give them away. By filing a report, the police can make her say exactly where she took the pieces, whether that was a donation center or a buyer, and those items can then be treated as stolen property and potentially recovered. Several people also urge the OP to immediately find out where she donated them. They suggest confronting her and telling her that if she doesn't say where they are, they'll move forward with a police report for theft. Commenters point out that time is critical here. If the furniture went to a thrift store or charity, it might be resold quickly. There's also a strong suspicion in the comments that the mother-in-law might not have donated the furniture at all, but sold it for cash, especially if she knew the pieces were high-quality, hand-carved mahogany heirlooms. That makes people even more convinced this wasn't innocent and that legal action is appropriate. Overall, the commenters overwhelmingly say OP is not the asshole, and that changing the locks and enforcing a ban is a reasonable response to such a serious boundary violation. What do you think? Is banning the mother-in-law from the house and from seeing the grandchild a fair consequence for what she did? Or is that going too far over just furniture? And would you call the police in this situation? Let me know your thoughts and your verdict in the comments below. This dad promised all his kids a fully paid wedding, but only if they followed 3 specific rules. His older kids agreed and got their big days covered. Now his youngest wants something different, and he's refusing to pay. Is he standing by his word, or hiding behind rules to control the wedding? Am I the asshole for not paying for my daughter's wedding because she isn't following the rules, even though I paid for my older kids? Okay, here's the situation. My wife and I have always told all of our kids that we'll be willing to pay for their wedding if they follow a few rules. Rule 1. All family has to be invited unless something major happened. Rule 2. The wedding cannot be a destination wedding. Basically, if all your guests need to get on a plane and leave the country, that's a no. Rule 3. Immediate family gets a +1, even if they're not currently dating someone. Overall, the rules are not that hard to follow, in my opinion. My daughter, she's a 31-year-old woman, is marrying Cindy, who's a 34-year-old woman. And they've picked out a venue and are working on the guest list. They both know the rules if they want me to pay. My daughter told me yesterday that the wedding is going to be child-free. I told her that goes against one of my conditions for paying. All family has to be invited, and yes, that includes the kids. We sat down and had a conversation where she tried to convince me to still pay even if it was child-free. She wants it to be child-free because she wants it to be an elegant event, and Cindy doesn't like kids that much because she experienced parentification as a kid. I told her I would think about it, and my decision was no. I told both of them, and in short, they're pretty mad. I made it clear that they can have that kind of wedding if they want, but I just won't be paying for it. My daughter is pissed and says it's unfair because her siblings did get a free wedding. I pointed out that they followed my rules. Everyone is pissed, basically. I'm just going to answer some questions up here. Another question I keep getting is, why don't Cindy's parents pay for it? They're the type of parents who don't give money for weddings. Yes, they'll be there, but they're really big on the idea that if you're old enough to get married, you're old enough to pay for it yourself. Since I'm seeing this a lot, Cindy has been to plenty of events with kids. She's even babysat before. She personally doesn't want children, but she's been fine around kids in the past. Did the other kids have issues with the rules? Only my middle son and his wife. They wanted a wedding in Italy, but decided against it after I told them I wouldn't pay. My daughter and Cindy can still have a child-free wedding if they want. It just means they won't be getting 50 to 100 grand from me. They'll have to pay for it themselves. The top commenters are pretty split between understanding the dad's stance and still thinking he's being a bit rigid. One of the most upvoted takes says he's not the main villain of the story, since he laid out clear conditions and is sticking to them. But he does come across as an asshole in how controlling the rules feel. The money isn't owed, but tying it so tightly to specific expectations rubs some people the wrong way. Another commenter points out a practical side of the child-free issue. When you ban kids from a wedding, you often end up excluding their parents too, especially mothers. Not everyone has reliable childcare, especially at an event where most of the usual babysitters are actually invited as guests. From that angle, they say he's not the asshole for deciding how to spend his money, and they note that most people pay for their own weddings anyway and turn out fine. In their view, it's generous that he's offering anything at all. A third highly upvoted comment calls it a clear, not the asshole situation because the daughter knew the rules going in. They argue she now has a straightforward choice: have the exact child-free dream wedding and pay for it herself, or compromise like her siblings did and get the financial help. That commenter also points out that the older siblings may have made sacrifices they didn't love, like giving up a destination wedding, to get their weddings funded. So changing the rules now for the youngest would be unfair to them. They also warn the dad that online reactions might skew against him because, in their words, Reddit hates kids. What do you think here? Is this just a parent setting fair boundaries around a huge financial gift? Or is he using money to control his daughter's wedding under the guise of family rules? If you were the daughter, would you compromise to get the 50 to 100 grand or pay for the child-free wedding yourself? Let me know your verdict in the comments and whether you think the dad is the asshole the daughter is, or if everyone's a little bit at fault. Imagine showing up to your close friend's 21st birthday with your long-term boyfriend, and you find out you're the only couple that's been deliberately split up, and your boyfriend's been labeled a vibe killer. Do you just smile through it for the sake of the party or call your friend out right then and there? Am I the asshole for arguing with my friend at her birthday party after she intentionally separated me from my boyfriend? So, I'm a 21-year-old woman, and I've been dating my boyfriend, who's 22, for almost 2 years. We're really solid, we live together, and we usually go to events as a couple. I've never had any serious issues with this friend of mine, also 21, who I've known since high school. She threw herself a big 21st birthday party at a rented venue. She invited around 30 people, and I confirmed weeks in advance that both of us were coming. When we got there were assigned tables. I was seated at a table with her and her close friends, and my boyfriend was placed at a completely different table across the room with people he doesn't know. At first, I just assumed it was a mistake. I pulled her aside and asked about it, and she told me it was on purpose. She said she didn't want couples attached at the hip and wanted people to branch out. That sounded fine, until I looked around and realized literally every other couple, including people who'd only been dating for a few months, was seated together. When I pointed that out, she admitted she thought my boyfriend would kill the vibe and said I'd be more fun without him around. For context, he's quiet, but extremely polite, and he has never caused any problems at any event. My boyfriend was clearly uncomfortable once he realized everyone else was seated with their partners except him. He tried to brush it off, but I could tell he was embarrassed and confused. I told my friend that deliberately separating us while seating everyone else with their partners was hurtful and unnecessary, especially with her comments about him not being fun. She rolled her eyes and told me it was her birthday and I was being dramatic. At that point, I decided not to make a scene, so we stayed for the rest of the party. But I was definitely more quiet than usual for the rest of the night. Since then, she's been blowing up my phone saying I ruined her birthday, embarrassed her, and made everything about my relationship. Some mutual friends agree with her and say I should have just stayed quiet for the sake of the party, while others think what she did was mean and intentional. I don't really think I caused that much of a scene, but it was her birthday, so I feel bad if other people noticed. I genuinely didn't want to cause drama, but I also didn't want to ignore the issue and leave my boyfriend feeling uncomfortable. Am I the asshole? The top comments are pretty unified on one thing. Most people don't think you were wrong to speak up, but they're frustrated that you stayed at the party after your boyfriend was singled out and insulted. One highly upvoted comment says you're not the asshole for confronting your friend, but that you were unfair to your boyfriend by staying there after she treated him that way. In their view, once she made it clear she thought he would kill the vibe, the respectful move would have been to leave with him. Another commenter echoes this, calling you the asshole not for the argument, but for staying and leaving your boyfriend stuck at a table of strangers while your friend openly disrespected your relationship. They feel you should have prioritized his comfort over the party. A third top comment takes a harder stance on the friend. They say you're the asshole for continuing to attend a party where the host clearly disdained your relationship and insulted your boyfriend. At the same time, they say you're not the asshole in the bigger picture because they believe your friend is actually jealous and vindictive, possibly even interested in your boyfriend herself, and that she was never really your friend to begin with. What do you think? Was the friend just using birthday girl privilege, or did she cross a serious line by singling out OP's boyfriend? And should OP have left the party with him instead of staying? Let me know your verdict in the comments, and whether you'd still stay friends with someone after something like this. Imagine moving into what seems like the perfect apartment, and then slowly realizing your roommate might be sneaking into your room, using your stuff, and maybe even stealing from you. How far would you go to protect your space if the person you live with just refuses to respect your boundaries? Am I the asshole for changing the lock on my bedroom in a shared apartment without my roommate's permission? I've been sharing an apartment with another woman for about 3 months now. We didn't really know each other before moving in, but we had a mutual friend. She was actually the one who asked me to move in because her previous roommate was leaving, and at the time, I was really struggling to find a place. I'd checked out a lot of rooms, but they were either way too expensive or just didn't feel right. When she offered, I went to see the apartment and agreed pretty quickly. At first, she was really nice And honestly, I felt super grateful because she helped me out when I really needed a place. Because of that, I let a lot of small things slide. She would come into my room without asking, lie on my bed, walk around the apartment barefoot, and then sit on my bed with those same feet. She'd help herself to my snacks and use my stuff. A couple of times I tried to bring it up in a light way, kind of joking that I can't sleep if someone sits on my bed, but she would just laugh it off and keep doing it. Over time, it started to really bother me. I wasn't trying to start a fight, so I tried not to be harsh. But I started locking my room whenever I left the apartment. She didn't say anything about that, but sometimes when I came back, I had this strong feeling that someone had been in my room. I finally asked her directly if she had a key to my room. She got defensive and said I was being paranoid and imagining things, so I dropped it. A few weeks later, when she went out with friends, I asked a friend of mine, who does this kind of work, to change the lock on my bedroom door. I just wanted to feel safe in my own space. A few days after that, while I was at work, she started sending me angry messages saying I changed the lock without her permission, that I disrespected her, and that building staff had questioned her about it. When I got home, she immediately started yelling, saying she never should have let me move in, and that I had no right to make changes. I told her calmly that it's my room, and I changed the lock because I didn't feel safe. She said she had talked to management and that I have to move out. That didn't sit right with me, so the next day I went to the building office myself. The staff told me she already had complaints against her from previous roommates, including bullying and theft. They also confirmed I was allowed to change the lock on my private room and that I hadn't broken any rules. After that, I officially filed a complaint against her. The very next day, a notice was issued to her. Since then, she hasn't said much to me directly, but the atmosphere in the apartment is really tense. This place works really well for me in terms of price and location, so even with the tension, I actually feel safer and more at peace now that my boundaries are protected. Am I the asshole for filing the complaint? Reddit was firmly on the side of the locked door. The top comment says the roommate's rage is really telling. She's furious that she can't invade OP's space and potentially steal from her anymore. That commenter calls her behavior positively insane and suggests that, on top of the new lock, OP should consider getting a camera if it's legal, because someone like this might try to retaliate. They also wonder if, given her prior complaints and the new notice, management might eventually evict the roommate if she keeps it up. Another highly upvoted comment says OP is absolutely not in the wrong. The roommate is just mad she finally got called out on her behavior. Their advice is to prioritize safety, but if OP can tolerate the tension, they'd stay put since the place works so well for her. And a third commenter recommends OP follow up with building management and find out how many complaints it takes before the roommate is removed. Their plan: stay, keep documenting issues, and once the roommate is gone, look for a better, more respectful person to share the apartment with. What do you think? Is changing your own bedroom lock and filing a complaint the right move here? Or should OP have tried to handle this differently with her roommate before going to management? Let me know your verdict in the comments, and if you've ever had a boundary-stomping roommate, I'd love to hear your stories too.